Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in. Today we'll be taking a look at a watch that I want to say falls within the line of design as one of my favorite watches of all time. This is coming from a Canadian micro brand that I'm not sure many of you have heard of, called Momentum, and the watch that we're going to look at today is called the Square 2 for some obvious reasons. And the reason that I'm saying that is that I'm not sure that is a Square 1, but that doesn't matter that much now. What matters is that this is, from what I can see, a Tag Heuer Monaco homage with some small design differences, and there is nothing bad about that. Also, I think that this is very hard to make a watch with the same case shape that is not considered a Monaco homage. At first glance, you'd say that this is just another Tag Heuer homage attempt and that it has a very fashion watch vibe to it, but you would be very wrong. I had this for a while now, and granted, this is not perfect, but this has some decent specs. I'll put a link into the description box to their website if you guys want to check it out and see their other products, because they have a nice lineup. Also, consider subscribing to my channel if you don't want to miss any future videos. One thing to mention before moving along, this watch has been provided to me by Momentum Watches for the purpose of this review, and I don't have to return it, so bear that in mind as the video goes along. Now, let's roll the intro. Like I was saying, there aren't many watches with this case design that have their own character, and from what I can see, micro brands don't choose this look either. Maybe because of the lack of popularity, or other brands haven't done it successfully. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I had the same expectation when it arrived, that it's just another fashion watch directed design, but I stand corrected. When holding this, apart from a few small things that I'll be mentioning throughout the review, this has a very solid feel to it. Let's go through some dimensions. Since this is not actually round, I'm not gonna call this a diameter. So from the furthest points on the sides, we have a distance of 39 millimeters, a thickness of 12 millimeters with a raised sapphire crystal, and this one is one of the many benefits of the movement of a quartz movement, which is the reduced thickness. We have a lug width of 22 millimeters, which again is well suited for the style and the size. We also have a lug to lug of 47.5 millimeters, which falls within the sweet spot. The weight on the supply leather strap is 90 grams. Now, some points to mention here before moving on. I think the weight is absolutely perfect and it doesn't feel top heavy at all. Also, 90 grams is plenty when you take in consideration that the case style, the way it sits on the wrist, and it allows it to distribute that weight very, very well. Now let's talk about the case. We have a 3-on-6L stainless steel construction, and I do have to say that the finishing is absolutely gorgeous. The sides are a combination of brushed and polished, with the brush taking most of the middle part, and the lines running on the top and bottom edges are both polished. Whatever look they wanted to go for here, they managed to pull it off, because it really makes the side of that case pop, and it just gives it a bit more personality. On the top parts, where the crystal sits, again, we also have the same combination of brushed on the top and polished on the side, where the crystal meets the case. Again, not that I'm surprised, but I wasn't expecting this level of finishing, so very, very well done and very well executed. At the 1 and 4, we have the chronograph pushers. At the 1, we stop and start the chrono function. At the 4, we reset the chrono hand. They both have the same polished finish, and they are aligned, they're angled away from each other. Easy to operate, and they do follow the lines of the case well. We also have the crown at the 3, which is just push-pull, but between this and the case back, which is secured in place with 4 screws, we still have a stated water resistance of 100 meters, which should give you that additional confidence. The crown has engraved on it the Momentum logo, which is filled with white paint for some reason. Initially I thought this was lumed, but I was wrong, because other than that, fitting it with loom, I don't see why you would fit it just with paint in this case. But I guess it's only for aesthetic purposes. The only issue that I have here is that with time and everyday use, that paint might start to come off, but it all depends on how often you wear this, and I guess where you have your hands. Now, just move on. The dial. Now the dial is covered by a flat piece of sapphire crystal. I'm not sure if it has any AR coating, but depending on how the light hits it, it gets harder to see in different angles. But regardless of the AR situation, this looks so good. And I have to admit, this is one of my favorite things on this watch. The way it's cut, the side distortions, and the fact that there is so much crystal. The one we have here is the black variant. They also do a white and a blue dial. Out of the lot, this is the one I like the most, just because I think it suits the style better. Now, this is just a personal preference. We have all applied indices with a racetrack style minute track. Over at the 9, we have the minute counter. At the 3, we have the 24-hour indicator. Both subdials are round, which we'll talk about a bit later. And over at the 6, we have the date window with no date frame. The chrono hand has a touch of red, which complements the writing just above the date window. And I do like the fact that the minute hand reaches all out to the end of the markers. Now, a few things to discuss here before moving on. The dial looks okay overall, but maybe I'm being a bit too overcritical here. For instance, the subdials are round, which is okay. I get that you don't want to make a full-on homage, but it doesn't fit in the case design. Also, the indices are too close to the center of the dial, which make everything look a bit too cramped in my opinion. If you have the indices going outwards a bit, just a bit more, you can have the more squarish subdials, and the overall dial design would have been a bit more balanced and would have actually a more balanced look. Now, lastly, you have the 2 dots at the 12. Now, I'm not sure if they're inspired from anything, but I just don't see the point of having them there. Maybe they're referencing one of their older models, one of the older Tag models, but I am not sure. Also, while we're at the 12, the hour marker doesn't actually align properly. It's slightly off center. Now, if there is a Monaco that has this exact dial design and I'm not aware of it, I would really probably say the same thing. It's just me, just my preference. It just feels like they changed their mind halfway. Now, like I said, the dial is okay. There are things that probably the average buyer would look at, but wouldn't look at, but I do. Now, while we're here, we might as well cover the loom. On the website, it says Super Luminova. I suspect they are using some kind of BGW9 replacement. Either way, it's nothing crazy, partly because we have so little surface, and also it's not the style to have strong loom. I'm not bothered by this particularly because I wasn't expecting it to be strong in that department. Now, let's talk about the movement. The movement powering this is the Japanese Mayora 0S21, which, as you may have guessed, is a quartz movement. This has a stated accuracy of plus to minus 20 seconds per month, and it's something you typically see at this price point. It doesn't have your smooth sweep of the chronograph or when the chronograph hand is working, or the mechanical spring of the Mecha Quartz when resetting it, but this will do just fine. I have 5 chronographs in my collection and I do wear them quite often, and I can count on one hand and still have 5 fingers left the number of times that I actually found myself using that function. I just like having it there. One comment I would have here is the fact that the chrono hand just about misses those markers. Now, not the end of the world, as this is often the case with these quartz movements. Now, again, take that as you may, but it's something that is typically expected. And finally, we're going to talk about the strap. It is a 22mm lug width perforated vegetable tan leather made in Italy according to the website, but apart from that, not much else. It's actually a decent quality strap. It's soft, it doesn't need any breaking in, and it doesn't feel cheap, which is very important, I think, taking into consideration the whole aspect of the whole fashion vibe that is around this watch. The hardware is beautifully finished with the logo, so I can't really complain much. I would have loved to see that logo stamped on the inside somehow, but that's not really a complaint. Now, when buying this, you can either choose either a stainless steel mesh or a couple of leather options or a rubber variant. I think this looks pretty good on whatever you want to choose it for, but personally I prefer the leather strap. Final conclusions here, guys. The Square 2 is a pretty decent attempt at a Monaco homage. Now, on a closer look, it does feel like a teenager that is not sure what career path to take in life, which by the way is a very weird analogy, but you get my idea. But it does have a certain set of specs paired with that iconic look that is pretty obvious, and you have yourself a very interesting piece. Just like I say in a lot of my videos, if you fancy the style and you want to save at least 3 grand in this case, or probably more depending on whatever variant of the original you want to go for, this might be up your street. Now, that was it from me, guys. I really hope you enjoyed my review of the Momentum Square 2. Drop me a comment down below with your opinion on this. Click a like, subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss any future videos. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.